You're live. We're live. Here we go. When I rule the world, there will be odor out of chaos. What's that smell? A whole lot of blood. When I rule the world, I will know what the blood has to do with. Hey gang, here I am. Shop. So yeah, it's they've closed down Making America Great Again here. They closed down. How about a thumbs up there, buddy? They closed down the 4 general stores in the 20 square mile of my house. The only stores that are open are the Dollar Generals. Now, those other general stores, they all put together employed about 60 people, right? These 2 Dollar Generals each employ 4 people. And the crap they have in that store is not half as good as the general store shit. So, just a little, observation from my neck of the woods. And I'm in the most rural area you could think of. And we had a breakout. And basically, our county is 34,000 people. And we had 900 sick. But we don't even know how many really, because they fired the lady who was in charge of public health, turned it over to the state, and the state office in that town, the county seat, is closed, right? So there is none, zero, right? And the county social services used to employ 34 people. Now it employs 2. So those people are harried. So it's a mess, right? And I go around and talk to people because they're all like, oh, and I said, no, just go home, relax, and don't watch news, and don't listen to anybody who's going to get you upset, Remember, the only thing that exists is love. Be more loving, be more kind, be more, everything you think is a lie. If you go story of the fall, it focuses on Adam and Eve being not worthy, being bad, being sinful. No, sorry, that's not the story. The story is the devil, the snake that was up in that tree. Oh, look at this fruit, and that fruit, had a worm in it, and we ate the fruit, and we ate the worm, and that worm was, one of those little characters that live inside you and live off of you. What do they call those things? I forget what they call them. And I've been writing about this on my blogspot, my xratted.blogspot, and that little thing I showed you in red at the beginning is my new novel called Legend, right? And it's all about this and about a lot of stuff, right? And the one thing that this is really good, what we are experiencing right now in the pandemic is the level of incompetency. My county shows it up straight, right? And because this all came from, we were out in the middle of nowhere. My friends who are in power there, oh, we have nothing to worry about. No one's, this is the armpit of the world, blah, 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 right? Well, that was true, except we had a for-profit jail, right? It was built when it was a county jail to be for 300. The for-profit guy stuck 1,900 people in there and take not only people from the state, but from all over America, and ICE dump people there. And, so there were 1,900 people, like 7 in a cell built for 1 person. And so some people came in. Plus, the reason that is that the people who own the jail and the hospital and the old folks home basically put facts up there and got the guys in jail who mostly are guys who couldn't pay bond. We have to really look at bond. So they have been in there for more than a year just waiting. They didn't even get a court date because until they pay their bond, they're not getting a court date. And so it's like, really? Is this America? Really? Is this what's going on? Really? And so they have these guys work in factories up there for 72 cents a day. And if they want to eat something more than nutrition loaf or jail loaf, as it's called, because they can't even tell you what's in it. It's just enough nutrition to keep you alive. But if you want a real sandwich, like a bologna sandwich, you got to pay for it. $3 a bologna sandwich. And it's $4 a minute when you make a phone call, right? This county jail is free. So this is a place that's out in the friggin' middle of nowhere. So when people, what's this? What's up with this? Black Lives Matter. No, that is just saying everyone is black. When I hear, the rich, and the other people who brought it were all the people who ran away from Florida and marched to their houses around the lake. And they just, they didn't wear a mask. Oh, we can come here and not have to wear a mask. They just came from Florida, where everyone was infected, and they were too. And they, so, here's this little county. 900 people are sick, but we don't even know that because we don't have a health department. And 70-something people have died, and we don't even know that. I know of 9 people who are like within a 10-mile radius of my little neck of the woods. But hey, I'm out in the middle of nowhere, I swear. I'm not just socially distancing. I am, basically quarantining myself. Like, okay, so I came to this town, Boone, which is about 28 miles from me. And it's where App State is. And they just showed up. The kids have just showed up. So I was coming into town. And I got off the big main drag onto a back road to head to Walmart's. And I got stuck behind the bus. And I could look, I'm right behind the bus. And I could see that the bus was, must have 100 kids in it because the buses in that town are just primarily for the college kids to get around. So they don't have to, if all those kids drove a car around here, they have 30,000 kids? No. So they have buses for them. So the thing was packed. None of them had a mask, right? And so I was behind him, and it made about 10 stops before it turned, and I kept going without in front of me. And each time it would stop, maybe somewhere between 6 and 20 people would get off the bus. None of them had a mask. None of them, I have a mask, it's right here. And usually when I'm out in public, if I'm not near anybody and I'm outside, I wear it like an earring. And then when someone gets near, I put it up just to be respectful to them, right? And so every kid I've seen in this, and there are all these signs, wear your mask, wear your mask. You're going to lose your internet thing if you don't wear a mask. These kids don't care. They're just having a good old time. And having parties willy-nilly, because all the restaurants bars they used to go to have not only closed, but gone out of business. And that's what I'm seeing, is that all across America, the small businessman is taking the hit. The airlines got freaking, close to $300 billion, to not fire him. But they did let off a third of their staffs by early retirement. That wasn't firing. It gave them a deal to retire. And those people didn't want to fly an airplane anyway. So, one reason why the airlines got so much money is that Warren Buffett was widely invested in airlines. Because before this happened, they were making money. They were like printing money, right? They had a cost for everything. So Warren Buffett lost close to $100 billion. So he pulled some strings with his political property, and they passed in the CARE Act. They gave the airlines, like I said, close to $700 billion. And as soon as that money went straight into the airlines, um, Warren sold his stock, and he made $60 billion. And guys like him have made. Look at Mr. Bezos of Amazon. He has doubled his wealth since February. Doubled. You know, he had 100 billion. Now he has 200 billion. His business used to be worth almost $1 trillion. Now it's worth almost $2 trillion. So you have to realize this is a plan. Not that people aren't getting sick. I'm in a place where I'm watching them die, but it's more or less a biological weapon. And what I love about Donald Trump is doing what it would take another 60 years. I used to live in the Deep South in the 60s when I was at that point being a newspaper photographer, and I lived in the black section. And the white people said, "Oh, you're not supposed to live here." I said, "What? I live above the best restaurant in North Carolina. That lady loves me. It was the upstairs had been a speakeasy, so it was like plush, and big. So I had 1,200 square feet of gigantic, all the way around deck, and I could see the mountains and the flatlands and the ocean and the city, and I had my own. It was like Batman. I pushed a button on my car, and the thing rolled up, and I drove in, and I walked up the stairs to my place. And once the mayor said, "You're not supposed to live here," I said, "Mr. Mayor, you eat here. All the police eat here. The sheriff, the chief, everybody eats here. All the judges, everybody eats here. I just to get the heat here first." And everybody laughed, and the judge said to me, "Al, we all love you so much because you are such a character. But if there were more of you, we'd have to kill you." And he was basically serious. Luckily for me, there was only one. So come on, let's see one thumbs up. There's two of you. One of you can give me a thumbs up. Come on. I thought one of you did, but I can hardly see anything. So go read, go to xratted.blogspot and go read Legend 2. And you can read Legend 1 and see the difference. And Legacy, which I'm not done with, but I wanted to, what's it say there? Where's your thought on what? Vaccines. Well, what about vaccines are, it's a foreign body entering your vein through a needle. Now, I used to be an EMT first responder. I was the medical guy in this Varna, fire department just near Ithaca, right? And our house was right near where 91 crossed another interstate, and they didn't have a closer relief. It just did an X. So trucks going this way ran over little cars. So, and that was hard. That was what we did, right? The car crashes, right? In the 3 years I was at that firehouse, we did car crashes. Number 1 to 5 a week, and really unbelievably like war zone kind of catastrophe. Heart attacks up in the retirement village / trailer camp. And what was the other thing we did? Oh, suicides. Guys who would eat their gun. And people, because everyone was so curmudgeonly up in that retirement, nobody cared about each other. Nobody talked to each other. And there was like 500 retirees, guys in their own little trailers, right? And they just got, they didn't go anywhere. They didn't do anything. They got depressed. They ate their gun. So those are 3 things we did. And no one would notice that guy was dead until that trailer started to smell. So they would call us. We would go in and hose the thing down to deal with the guy who owned the people there used to stay. And it was like all theirs, and they didn't have to do anything, and the guy kind of took care of it. And so those are 3 things. And so every week, 1 to 5 really horrific car crashes. And I'll tell you the worst, not the worst, because it wasn't the worst, but one of the worst was we showed up, and this soccer mom was in her van that had not, she couldn't see, and she went right in front of a tractor trailer, and it clipped off the front of her car. The passenger side clipped that and like knocked that thing off and threw her car in the air and crashing down into the oncoming traffic. And she got hit and T-boned by about 6 cars because they didn't even see the crash. The guys behind the tractor trailer saw that whole thing and like hit the brakes and skidded and maybe smashed into something. But this was more like, a pinball machine. Anyway, when we got there, unbelievably, the car was not on fire. Gasoline was everywhere, and the car was, smashed. And every time it got hit, it was like, so it was like not like those cars that we would come on to where there'd be a single impact zone, and then the rest of the car, and we could, how we got most people out. Your car has these posts, there's 4 posts. We have these things called jaws of life. We would just snip the post and lift the roof off and pull the person out. Well, this car was so banged up, the frigging steering column was crushed. The bag, exploded, and in actuality, just as it was exploding, the wheel was coming towards her. So it almost decapitated her head, right? And it broke her head, and the bag broke the steering wheel off the column, and the column went right through her chest, all the way through the chair she was sitting in, into her daughter behind her. So the mother and daughter were like a kebab on the steering column. And that showed the impact going that way. And that girl, her head swung around and went through the window, and it cut her head off because of the torque of all the motion. It kind of took her head off and went out the window. And then a car crushed it and squished it along the highway before it got hit again. And the car flipped up in the air. And the girl behind, the daughter over there, she got a gigantic, when we got to it, she had this gigantic slice in her neck and a piece of glass in it. And she was going, and she was already gone, but she was still alive. And she was trying to pull the glass out of her neck, and that's what was keeping what was left of her blood in her body. And a little girl in the passenger seat, the shotgun seat, she was the only one wearing her safety belt, because she was so small. When the front of the car came up, it didn't crush her legs, but it pinned her in, so we couldn't get her out. We had to take the car apart. So first we had to make sure the car wouldn't burst into flames, so we had to foam the whole thing down. And I built, everyone was doing that. My job was, I was a medical guy and the shrinky guy. And so she was stuck in a way that she couldn't see that her mother was, and her sister was a shish kebab. She was looking that way. So I got a backboard, which is like the thing you put somebody on, and I put it here, and I got a tarp and put it over and made a little tent around her. So, and no matter where she looked, she couldn't see her mother or her 2 sisters, right? Because it was too much, right? And I was looking in the truck for a tarp. Where's the tarp? Where's the tarp? And somebody handed me a sheet. We had sheets that we would put on box. Well, there was so much blood that if you put the sheet on these people, it would really show the little girl what it was. So anyway, I did that, and then I kind of got the the guys and girls were trying to make sure the car didn't blow up. I was in the car, with this little girl, and I had grabbed the jaws of life. And not only do they have a pincer part, they have a prying part. And so I stuck it, you get a place where you can get this in, and I kind of popped the door off, but still her legs and her body was stuck in the car. We were going to have to take the car apart to get her out. So, so I was right there in her face, right? And I was holding her hand. I said, "What's your name?" "Emily." I said, "Emily." I said, "Do you have a dad at home?" She goes, "Well, I had a daddy, but he's dead. He was in a car crash last year, and so here's this little girl, the youngest of the family, and her mom's dead, her two sisters. She has nobody. I said, "Do you have any family here? Any aunts, uncles, grandparents?" No, I have some aunts in Ohio. And I said, "Okay." I said, "Listen, think of me as your dad. I am your dad, and you're my little girl, and I'm going to protect you. I'm going to make sure nothing bad happens to you, that you're safe, right?" She started to cry. She could get her hands and she put it around my neck. And she said, "Daddy, thank you." The girl was in shock. So I stayed with her that way for about 3 hours until we could get her out. And as we took the vehicle apart, we were luckily able to get the other bodies out before we got her out, and got them covered and taken care of. And when we finally got her out, I picked her up. I covered her with a woolen blanket because she was going into shock. And I, took her over into the bus, our ambulance. And I put a line in her arm, and this gets to the vaccines. And I, pumped her with adrenaline and a number of other drugs that, no one told me. We had them in the thing. You're going to do this. And I had been on the radio. Our bus was very, Ithaca College had a medical trauma center, top. And that's why we could save people, because we could get them out within 15, 20 minutes if they were hurt, and we could get them to that hospital within 20 minutes. Pretty much those guys, no matter what was wrong with them. I mean, we had people who had, things through their bodies, and we cut the things off and brought them there with the things still in their body so they wouldn't bleed to death. But the mind, when you get your head ripped off, it's so, and I said, "Listen, I'm going to stay with you the whole way." I picked her up, I carried her into the thing, I put her, didn't put her in a gurney or do any of that kind of protocol crap, because I had been with her for an hour and I full paid everything. I knew she was unhurt. She had a couple black and blues, but nothing broken, nothing hurt, nothing punctured, nothing, she was in shock. That's what she was, right? And so I covered her up, made sure got a line in her and was putting saline in her. And talking about vaccines, yes, I squirted them into the bag and it got into her system. There are drugs that are very good. And then there are drugs that are manufactured to make a profit. That's the difference. So, I'm old enough to, I had friends who had polio and never walked again. Polio vaccine seemed to work, but it did something that was an unexpected consequence. So they had this thing called raw polio, the thing that came from out there in the jungle. And when they started vaccinating people, it kept them, but it gave them vaccine polio. Not a lot, but statistically, hundreds of thousands, but saved millions of people's lives, billions of people's lives, and billions of people not getting in a wheelchair for the rest of their life. So, there's that. Now, there are a lot of vaccines that are out there that are like, and unless I know the doctor, and unless I know the facility, and unless I have confidence in them, no, I'm not letting anybody stick me with nothing, But I'm not an anti-vaxxer. Now, there is, Robert Kennedy's son, Jr., and he is a anti-vaccine guy, right? And I want you guys to go, just go to Google and put JFK Jr. speech in Berlin. Go look at that speech, right? Now, I won't, I've listened to JFK, Robert Kennedy Jr.'s, his career, and watched him. He's very passionate at this, and he is, he has a lot of good points. But to take it on as a religious point of view, and so go watch that, So that's my little response to what do I think about vaccines, is go watch Robert Kennedy's speech in Berlin. Robert Kennedy Jr. speech in Berlin. Take you right there, right? And it's an interesting speech, right? And he knows German, so he kept saying things in German more than his uncle did. Um, you know, when said, ich Berliner, I am a Berliner. So he really could speak German. So half his speech is in English, half is in German. And so he makes some very good points, and he speaks very passionately. But to view it as a religion, no, sorry. You yourself have to be aware. You have to rule your own life, and that's the problem of what's going on now. Is that there are a lot. That's why I call it a pandemic or a scandemic. It's not that this isn't a virus that's really happening. Buddy, I can't read anything you write because oh, I have to wear. Let's see, what are you saying? Sukar 53. In Australia, they might force vaccines to COVID. Of course they are. I lived in Australia when they had martial law twice, and once. Did you ever see the Hulu show Handmaid's Tale? And in the first episode or two, while our heroine is running around and hasn't been given a habit yet, she's like has a really pretty good job, and so it's just like the pandemic. They close everything down, and a whole bunch of people go out and start marching, and there were militias that come in and shoot, and I mean really shoot, not one or two. I watched the video of the 17-year-old shoot those two people, and you have to look at the gun he had. He was a Long Arrow AR-15. That gun cost $4,800. Where does a 17-year-old get $4,800? And he was running down the street with the gun. I mean, I'm a gun guy. I grew up with guns. One of my best friends in grammar school, his great grandfather started the National Rifle Association before it was that, when it was gun safeties, blah blah blah. And these people taught you how to use a gun safely, right? And that you had to respect the gun because the gun was final. You shoot the gun at somebody, they're dead, or very badly. The guy who got shot 7 times in the back, point blank, that guy is lucky. So, the kid, right, 17, running down the street away from a crowd, and they were just like screaming at him, right? And he's like looking back, so he's not even watching where he's right. So he trips over his own feet and falls down. And why these people got shot and why they died was they were right behind him, and they're right on him, and they grab the friggin' barrel, and they're like trying to pull the gun away from him like this, and he blows this one guy's head right off, and the other hits the guy sideways in the head and shoots the other guy. But he wasn't aiming. He should not have. Who gave him that gun? And he drove all the way from another state to do this. And then he walks straight to the police with a gun slung over his arm with his hands up, and they let him go. There's too many. What's going on here, right? So that's what you have to look at, is what's going on. And I would strongly believe that. And why do the Democrats put up Joe? Meaning, if Tulsi Gabbard, who was an amazing candidate for president, was allowed to speak at the debates, she would have been it. People would have voted for her because she's good looking, she's smart, she's an American hero. She's a U.S. Army. I mean, she was about to go to Harvard when 9/11 happened, and she went and joined the Army, right? As because she had a college degree, she was a lieutenant, and then she went into the medical corps, and she ran hospitals in Iraq and Afghanistan. Every day she was the one who was putting the toe tags on the bodies and sending the letters to the family. This girl should be president. She doesn't want any more wars, and that's why the media, the corporate media, wouldn't give her the time of day. The only person she could talk on was Jimmy Dore, and you guys should go see Jimmy Dore. Now, he's got his own agenda, but it's still, he's funny because he's a screw up comedian who used to, make his living going down to the Fun House it's a strip mall. But then he worked for the Young Turks as a commentary guy and got his legs and started this. And he's running the Jimmy Dore show out of his mother's basement. And he does news better. He is more informative than all of the news networks put together. Because nobody owns Jimmy. I mean, he does have an agenda. Because, what I would love for him to say and speak to is that the Democrats and Republicans are two wings of the same corporate bird. A guy named, what was his name? The book was None Dare Call It Conspiracy by Gary Allen. And I knew Gary pretty well. We were students of a guy at Georgetown called Dr. Quigley, who was, Grandpa Smurf for the Council on Foreign Relations. And he was like, I was like him. I was going to say he was like me. I was like him in that he was a scholar, right? First and foremost. And now he wasn't an itinerant scholar. He just kind of worked for the CFR and taught at Georgetown because that was the pipeline to the CFR. So he wrote a book called Hope and Tragedy. And he put it down straight up. And you think Howard Zinn's book's good? This guy, because Howard Zinn, again, it's kind of like Jimmy Dore, had a little, point of view, but this other guy was Quigley. Go read if you can get that book, Hope and Tragedy. It puts it straight up what is going on, without, the neoliberal, neoconservative point of view. So, so the Democrats put Joe Biden up, who is doesn't even know his name, And Mrs. Pelosi wants to make sure there are no debates because, if people see that guy live on TV, already my little, Ouija board tells me that Donald Trump has 53% chance of winning the election. But we have about almost 90 days between now and election. A lot of stuff can happen. I also... My Ouija board tells me that there is a good 62% chance we won't have an election. We'll have martial law. And Donnie will become emperor. And then what the I Ching says is that he will, choke to death on, some McDonald's nuggets, and Mike Pence will become the emperor for life. And he is already a transhuman, so that means forever. And have any of you noticed how much Mike Pence looks just like Donald Sutherland in The Hunger Games? That movie was made to give us a heads up. Kids, this is what's coming. But it doesn't have to, because all of this depends on I made an illusion of this, our fall from the Garden of Eden. We're still there. We're still in the Garden of Eden. Only reason why we don't realize it is because we have taken the big lie. We ate the apple of the tree of, good and evil. No, it was the tree of truth of good and evil. And what is truth but a lie? That's why Donald Trump, and insane Rudy, Rudy goes, well, there is no truth. He's right, because there's only love. So the people who are out, Black Lives Matter, if they were just singing, all we are asking is give peace a chance. All we are asking is give love a chance. If that's all they sang, right? And they didn't get upset or yank. The guys who in the 50s and 60s, got hit by fire hoses, a lot worse than fire hoses and German shepherds ripping your leg off. Way worse than tear gas and, red spray. So that's what I'm asking for, is give peace a chance, Love is the only thing that exists. All of us in the material world are stuck on our lie because we believe that we're not good enough. Our parents told us we're not good enough. Our religions told us we are sinners. The school kept saying, you're fat, you're too thin, you're a bulimic, you're No one is, and I was very blessed because I had two types of teachers or characters in my life. Ones who actually were trying to kill me, you know, because I would so upset them by just being me, and those who would say, listen, you are truly an authentic person. You're the most honest guy. I remember my kindergarten teacher telling me, this is Gerling said, when everyone was, she kind of woke me up and said, Al, I want to talk to you. She goes, Al, I don't know where you came from. I know it's mostly your grandma because I've met her and she's an amazing woman. And I met your doctor, Dr. Teresa. You had these two great women in your life. But I've never met your parents. I have no idea about them. I said, well, don't worry about them. She goes, you need to never change. You're the most amazing person I've had in my life, other than my husband, and even him, he's not as cool as you are. And you are 7 years old, So I've had those two people, Sister Holy Roller Skate, who's trying to kill me, or Father Pedophile, who's trying to, when I besmirch his character. This one guy is trying. So I had a group of friends in the seminary, and we were all the outcasts. We weren't the cool ones. We weren't the guys who were going to be generals. We weren't the guys who were going to be captains of industry or bishops or cardinals. We were the interesting ones, right? And so there were, out of the teaching staff of about 40, there were 4 really great teachers here. The guy who was head of the seminary, the guy who was second in charge, and the football coach. The advanced math teacher, he was actually a computer teacher, right? They called it advanced math. And my physics teacher. All the rest were jack-offs and wanted to, we had a thing in that seminary called fagging. Underclassmen had to do what bend over and take your pants down. You had to do it. I said, screw you. No way, Jose. And when he went after my friends who weren't, as, singularly special as me, they would just push them against the wall and rape them. And this one priest went after my friend Igo, who had glasses. He couldn't see anything coming, but he was brilliant in physics. He and I were freshmen in the senior physics class, and we were doing way better than anybody else in that class. And that's why that teacher was like, you guys, you're my kind of guys, Or the other guys, I don't want to do this, Anyway, and we loved it, right? And that's, if you want to learn how to do anything, love what you do. Bottom line, right? So, sitting in the car. Luckily, the sun has gone down. Let's see, maybe the sun's going down. Maybe I'll play this again for you. Shadows. When I rule the world, there will be odor out of chaos. Odor. What's that smell? A whole lot of blood. When I rule the world, I will know what the blood has to do with. God is but love, and therefore so am I. There is no death. The Son of God is free. God is but love, and therefore so am I. Now are we one with Him, who is our source? God is but love, and therefore so am I. I love this song. Presence would I enter now. God is but love. This is my poetry, guys. Today I learn to give And as I receive, God is but love, and therefore so am I. Oh, God. Take me to the world. Show me the world. I shall have the world. When I rule the world, it will be about me. The world of his biggest, the most holy, second cranium, the Donald. Yeah, baby. I love you guys. Stay close to your heart. And everyone. And it'll be okay. It be me. Carrotland was to be made great again. And this was the grand and impotent. The biggest Richard Cranium, the Donald tells us, we the sheeple, over and over and over again. The key to mind control by the oligarch state is have a great leader tell us the sheeple, the great lie over and over again. Yep. Well, a little bit of art never hurt nobody. So take that all in. I don't know when I'll be doing my next show because, like I said, the places that a lot of the places I would go to have been closed down, right? And then the few people, ones that were left, they closed them down too. But the places that, that are big box stores, national brands, chains, that really don't add to the neighborhood economy, they are still open. Anyway, I mean, the Walmarts, the General, the Dollar General, all of that, So just be loving to yourself and everyone around you. Forgive everyone. Give everyone a break. Okay? Okay. I'll catch you till next time, I'll see where I can go. But you guys stay well. I love you.